Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 18th of March. This year's just flying on by, isn't it?
Thankful.
Meteorologist Craig Moeller and Taylor Stephenson here to talk to you from the weather desk. We've got a lot to go over. You know, every day from 13 News Now, our studios in serving Hampton Roads, that's Southeast Virginia, we present today's top weather stories. And we do it from not only what's happened here in Hampton Roads, but across the country and around the world. And today, even from outer space.
Oh, that's exciting.
Got a little something to update you on. Here's our first topic. We are going to recap the tornado damage that we saw here locally, but also talk about a massive outbreak of tornadoes that occurred over the weekend. Taylor, we were talking about that. The number, pretty amazing. I mean,
it is.
Powerful storm system.
I mean, especially in those places like the deep south, Midwest, where they've got tornado warnings over and over again.
So we're going to show you that, not only talk numbers, but we're going to show you some of the video, and it is really dramatic when you look at not only some of the tornadoes captured, but the damage left behind. It's incredible. Our next topic is this next major storm system coming into play. So we had the one over the weekend, and now we got to look forward to what will be a winter weather maker for the northern tier, and we're concerned with fire danger out west.
And that's one of the things that we watched for with the last system that brought all these tornadoes is that there were fires breaking out in parts of Oklahoma with all of those really strong winds and very dry conditions.
Yeah, a lot of wind associated with this next one right now out west, and we'll show you how it's going to work to the east. And then finally, I mentioned outer space. How about NASA and the crew returning after well, I guess technically almost 10 months in space, but an extra long stay for that crew, expected to splash down later this afternoon. We'll update you on that, and we're also going to have updates on pollen. You know, we're getting back into it.
I know.
The wind's kicking up that I was sitting there just doing the same thing, clearing my throat. So if you're suffering, we'll talk about that and the next rain chances in the mid-Atlantic. But Taylor, you know, the first thing we're going to talk about, that tornado that really impacted the northeast part of North Carolina around Nixonton, and it crossed over towards Elizabeth City. This is what it looked like yesterday just before the tornado touched down. And I've got it zoomed in. This street right here, Longview Estates Road right there, that is the road where there were multiple trailers, mobile homes that were destroyed from that tornado.
And unfortunately, in that same situation, multiple people were injured, up to 8 according to the Weather Service's report, and 3 were sent to the hospital. Thankfully, we haven't heard of any updates to those people in the hospital, so we hope they're doing okay. But
yeah, there haven't been any reports of fatalities, but again, 3 people stayed for medical care. We knew that. So that's how it looked. That was just the reflectivity, all right? And at 2:57, again, we were seeing, you know, a little bit of an appendage out this way, but this thing was here, moving quickly, and then the wind profile, you see that couple of inbound winds and outbound winds, and we were measuring these winds. Those inbound winds were right around 27 meters per second, which equates to about 60 miles per hour. So strong winds coming this way, and we had winds going the opposite way, and that was the sign of that rotation we were watching.
And it was a quickly spinning up system, and as quick as it got up, it got down. I mean, we are talking maybe a span of 4 minutes for this actual tornado on the ground.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the path, and then we're going to show you what it actually looks like. So here it is again from 3:02. That's the touchdown time to 3:06. You can see it went from right there at Longview Estates Road, and it continued moving off to the northeast, and it was racing 55 to 60 miles per hour. The storm cells were moving. It crossed over Simpson Ditch Road and then lifted. That path 3.1 miles. It's about 5 kilometers, and those maximum winds about 110 miles per hour, right on the cusp of an EF1, EF2.
Right. I mean, this is a very strong EF1 tornado. Now, this is a very brief tornado, as we said, anywhere from about 4 minutes, and then the path length was only about 3 miles. So again, as quickly as we got up with that tornado warning, most of the rotation was starting to really taper off as we continue with that warning.
And that was one of the things when we were actually in the live coverage of it. And this, again, was 3 o'clock yesterday morning. We were both in super early ahead of our 13 News Now Daybreak show, which normally starts at 4:30, but we were on with this warning and another warning and just stayed right on through the entire morning with our coverage on that. We did get a lot of damage, and we can show you some video. I believe they've got video that we can run from the storms And again, the devastation to those mobile homes was really something. You saw this community along this road. Really, I think it was, what, 8 different mobile, or
now it's up to 13.
Oh, 13 different structures, okay, that were impacted by that. So that is something that we've been looking at. Now, typically, when you take a look at the damage associated, they went out and were looking for, you know, signs of the wind strength, the National Weather Service survey team. And the EF1 range, again, we were at the very top of that. Typically with an EF1, small trees uprooted, power poles can be toppled, obviously broken windows on homes and significant roof damage. With mobile homes and kind of weaker structures, sheds, kind of outbuildings, they can really sustain heavy damage. And that's what we were looking at yesterday. When you come just a little bit above that 110, which is where those winds were estimated, once you get up into EF2, you can see roofs can be ripped away and there could be a lot more damage. I will say in the video that we looked at from yesterday, the stronger, sturdier, permanent structures away from the mobile homes, those were standing and they were in better shape. So again, the likelihood of those winds getting any stronger than that, pretty remote based on the damage we saw, but clearly up around 110. So a lot there.
It is. And again, those mobile homes are they're just not great structures when it comes to those really damaging wind gusts or tornadoes. They just cannot withstand that. So that's why we saw some of those mobile homes twisted up, around, moved off their foundation. It's just not a sturdy place to be in.
Yeah, it's been something else. So again, the stronger they get, the more destruction you have. And again, this was a tornado in our area. You had some statistics on the number of tornadoes that we get in March. It's very rare that we get those across our area.
Yeah, so in March, and usually for Virginia, the whole state, from a 25-year average from 1999 to 2023, we only average 1 tornado for the entire state for March. Now, it does go up to about 4 as you get into April, as we get into the peak.
Yeah, we see
more potent cold fronts for the peak of our severe storm season. And for now, we have made it to that 1 threshold. So we saw the 1, but we still have a little bit to go in March. So.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we get anything more. Now, I do want to talk to you, and I'm really going to have Taylor. Why don't you go ahead and talk about this? Our director can take this full so everybody can get a good look at all of these tornado warnings. And Taylor, I know you were looking into the research. Look at the outbreak and several what looks like streaks of tornadoes.
It is. And I do want to mention one more thing. North Carolina has a little bit of a higher risk for tornadoes in parts of March. We're looking at maybe 2 for tornadoes in March on a 25-year average. And so that was for the March one in Virginia, just 1. But as you can see, we didn't have any tornado warnings with this system in Virginia. There were 3, though, in North Carolina. But the system tracked all the way back to last Friday. This goes to March 14th when that outbreak started. And as you can see, over 300 tornado warnings between parts of the Mid-South, Deep South, up towards the Great Lakes and the Midwest, all the way through. But this was the bullseye of where we had that high risk. Now, a high risk is a level 5 out of 5 risk for severe weather, a very rare issuance from the Storm Prediction Center that's based in Norman, Oklahoma, over the entire nation when it comes to thunderstorm and severe thunderstorm outlooks. What's even more rare is that it was issued on day 2. So SPC outlooks for the level 1 through 5 go from day 1, which is the current day 2, which is tomorrow, and day 3, which is the next day after that. So a day 2 high risk has only happened 2 times in recent modern history here in the U.S. before the one that was issued last week. And those 2 days led to severe weather outbreaks. And we obviously saw that there were multiple confirmed tornadoes, even an EF4 tornado just shy of the rare EF5 that tracked through parts of Arkansas. There's some incredible video out there.
Yeah, and I saw, as I looked at the reports coming in, there were over 50 confirmed tornadoes. So you said there were how many warnings that were issued? Around how many you had mentioned?
So there's around 300 warnings spanning from just east of I-35, which goes through Oklahoma City, Dallas, and down through Texas. This side of the U.S., over 300.
You think about that, then they go out, they survey all of those warning areas where there's damage, and they say, okay, yeah, there was a tornado or there wasn't. And again, think about that, over 50 tornadoes out of those 300 plus warnings. So really a incredibly active weekend. I'll just give a quick mention to the St. Louis metro area. I have numerous family members that were in their basements, and I was talking them through where exactly those tornadoes were located Friday night. Everybody was in good shape, but a couple of my family members, my brother-in-law and one of my nephews, about a mile and a half away from one of those tornadoes Friday night. And my brother, who was in another part of St. Louis, was about 3.5 miles or so north of another one. So they were out there. Fortunately, though, they came through in good shape. Now, I do want to take you to a place that did not fare so well. We're going to Paragould, Arkansas. Residents there are left picking up pieces after a tornado outbreak ripped through the area. Debris is everywhere outside. Chunks of houses are hanging in trees, and the trunks of trees are lying on top of houses. K8 News' Macy Davis has the story.
Shock, and it's like a bad dream, and the reality's starting to set in now, and it's like, now what do we do?
Paragould families continue going through their homes after a tornado moved through the neighborhoods off of Pruitt's Chapel Road. So many homes in the area left with roofs blown off and debris littering every room. Bruce Drope and his wife and daughter hid in the bathroom as the storm headed their way. They started watching the storm on their outdoor cameras.
And every time it would lighten, you could just see the wickedness in the sky. And my wife looked at me and said, this is not good. And I said, no, it's not. And then it hit.
This is the third time Drope's home was hit by a tornado. The first time in Marmaduke in 2006, once last May, and now this one.
When it started building out around Lake Frierson, I thought, no way this is going to happen again. No way.
Just a neighborhood away Friday night, Johnny and Tammy Cole were watching the weather when they decided to take shelter.
We were right here in the closet.
The closet they sheltered in, the only area of the house untouched. They heard a pop as the skylight in their bathroom went out. Thinking that would be their only concern, they stepped out to see all the damage.
We opened the garage door and it was totally gone.
Yeah, and this is what we saw when we opened the door.
I could see the sky.
We're like, this is not good.
That is part of the fence.
Thankful to be alive, the Coles are grateful to everyone who helped them Saturday and the first responders' quick reaction.
Young lady drove through yesterday, offering water and hamburgers, and she was just a sweetheart.
And our local fireman knocked on the door, was here, seemed like within just a very few minutes after it happened.
Back in another neighborhood off Pruitt's Chapel, Drope is staying positive despite his hardships, also thankful that his family is safe.
We're you live right, you believe in God, you go to church, and you just keep getting punched in the face, and it's like, you just got to keep up and get going. It's just a bump in the road, and you just rock on and navigate it.
Friends, family members, and volunteers continue stepping up to help Drope's family with cleanup. He said he's been blessed.
Somebody's always got it worse than you, so we'll be fine. God was watching over us.
Reporting in Paragould, Macy Davis, K8 News.
All right, so that was from Arkansas. We're going to turn our attention now, Taylor, to Mississippi. And again, you can see all of those warnings. Residents in Mississippi are left salvaging what's left from items and debris after a tornado ripped apart their homes. At the moment, 6 deaths have been reported in that area. And take a look at these trees completely snapped in half. Just really amazing to see that.
I think the most, not surprising, but the most intriguing part about this whole thing was that there were multiple tornado emergencies.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we don't get a lot of. It's very, very rare here in Virginia and North Carolina. But down in the deep south, tornado emergencies mean that there's a confirmed tornado on the ground that's large, dangerous, usually producing very destructive and not catastrophic damage. It's a very rare type of tornado warning, but it happened multiple times when I was watching the coverage back in Birmingham.
It was something else. And, we get these longer track tornadoes. That's where they don't just touch down and hop up, but they stay down on the ground for a while. And it's really devastating. I mean, we could see them on the radar and we track them as they're moving along. But those are the ones that it's so important that, when we have this type of a scenario, people turn in to their local trusted sources for weather information and that live coverage. really important that you have somebody, if you're outside of the 13 News Now area, you have somebody in your local markets that'll take care of you. And we've got so many great stations and great teams with our Tegna family of TV and news stations. You want to make sure that you turn to them. All right, so we've talked about Arkansas, we've talked about Mississippi. We're going to take you now to Dallas, Georgia, where high winds uprooted trees, toppled down power lines, and decimated some homes. A resident of the Georgia town that was pounded by the storm over the weekend expressed the feeling of helplessness she experienced at not being able to help neighbors.
I thought that it was going to be kind of just smooth sailing, and we were missed the last time, so I didn't think to anticipate that there would be anything happening this time. But when that storm tore through, it was pretty loud, and of course when I heard the hit, it started raining in my bed. So I was like, oh my God. And so my daughter, she ran in and she pulled my bed to the middle of the floor, and we had to put a bucket and everything. So that was like the brunt of it.
So for me, this hits a little bit closer to home because I'm from Atlanta, and that's just about northwest of the Atlanta area. Now, it's not within the metro, but just outside of that. And so as you can see, multiple parts of the area with trees downed and
these are not
uprooted.
Small trees.
No,
I mean,
they're uprooted.
Look at the root system on that tree.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Now, we've shown you, look at all of these tornadoes out here and all of the damage that has been reported in these different areas. We're going to come back to our area and look specifically here in the northeast part of North Carolina. This is that tornado that we were covering here live on the air yesterday when the warning came out across northeast North Carolina. And we have video now to show you from that site yesterday. You could see residents were out. Again, this was around Longview Estates Road. And again, there were multiple mobile homes that were destroyed or damaged, suffered damage. Some of them were ripped from their, moorings or their tie downs, and some were ripped away from their foundations. One was twisted over. So very powerful EF1, almost an EF2 with those estimated winds at 110. You're looking at that, Taylor, and you see the video there, and we've got some aerials there with our drone footage. But is there anything that's really striking to you? And I know you spent a lot of time studying tornadoes.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, and for us here as broadcast meteorologists, we cannot confirm tornadoes if they weren't confirmed by spotters on the ground. But what I can say is, looking at this video, it looks exactly what you would see with tornado damage versus straight line winds. Straight line winds push things over in one direction. Tornadoes usually have multiple directional paths when it comes to destruction. So you'll see things just strewn about. Trees are just twisted up and like kind of snapped in half. With straight line winds, it's more of a pushing in one direction. So from what I saw yesterday, it looked like tornado damage, so I'm not surprised that it was a tornado that came through. But again, those are confirmed by the National Weather Service, and they went out yesterday afternoon to survey that.
If you think about it, if you've ever played the game Pickup Sticks, we've talked about this. If you take the sticks and you push them in one direction and lay them down, that would be like straight line winds. With a tornado, it's like you drop them and they scatter in different directions. That's another way that you can kind of assess it from the air. They also, when the survey goes out, they look for distinct edges with a tornadic path. When there's straight line winds, they tend to fan out a little bit more. So there are some different telltales, but that devastation down there to that street, those homes, it was really something. And again, fortunately, nobody reported, no fatalities reported here locally.
The other thing, too, was the hard part about this is that it was a very early morning tornado. So that was 3 in the morning when that happened. So when we're looking at damage from the morning, you can't really tell where things are because it's so dark outside. You can tell there's destruction, but you can't really tell the gravity of it or, again, the direction of where all this debris is being flown. So that was another hard thing. We had to wait till sunrise to actually get that information.
And one other quick note, we talked, Jeremiah Beatty, one of our reporters from 13 News, was down there and talked with the community. And I had a chance because we actually put her on the phone with me and I was talking to her about her experience. She said her home was shaking so much, and her home wasn't destroyed, but it was shaking. It woke her up. She grabbed her phone and looked, and this was right at 3:02. Just as the warning was coming down, she looked out the window and her neighbor's home was gone. So this was one where the warning literally came down as the tornado touched down because it was so fast. There wasn't a lot of advance on this one.
There wasn't.
And that's kind of the nature of some of these storms. There was no other history of anything tornadic here. There was not a watch that was issued leading up to it. There was previously out to the west, but at the time this warning developed and when we were tracking it actually as it was occurring, it came up very, very quickly. So, again, a scary situation. Fortunately, though, again, no fatalities with that. All right, we're going to turn our attention now back across the western part of the U.S. because we've got a different situation there with our next developing system. Now, officials say a dust storm in Kansas Friday reduced visibility to nearly zero on Interstate 70, I-70. The loss of visibility prompted this pileup of more than 70 cars and trucks. 8 people were killed. Jeremy Martin, the Weather Service meteorologist in charge in that area, said a cold front just pushed through the area, and that was the result, the pileup after it had been warm and dry for most of the day. Those winds reaching 70 miles per hour, kicking up the dust, and then it all became trapped there in the front. So just amazing to see that image. Then you have Oklahoma, Texas, and New Mexico. Let's take a little closer look at this. It has been so windy out there, and we've got these high wind warnings. So Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, into eastern Colorado, the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, and down through New Mexico. Those are all under high wind warnings. Taylor, we're looking at winds in some areas well in excess, gusts well over 50 miles per hour.
And this is the same thing that happened when we were talking about the stuff that happened in Kansas. Same things happened in Oklahoma and Dallas. Those winds were gusty. It was dry. Wildfires sparked. One of the things we talked about in Daybreak today that honestly broke my heart was seeing the fire damage in Norman, Oklahoma. I used to live in Norman, Oklahoma for 3 years. And so it really broke my heart seeing those buildings and houses that were down the street from where I lived because those wildfires just spread and took it over. Not only there in Norman, but also in Stillwater, where Oklahoma State University is as well.
Yeah, they really took the hit. Now, I mentioned the gusts over 50. Again, this is this wind advisory area pushing towards a high wind warning. There are going to be some areas that could see winds gusting up around 70 miles per hour. So when I say well over 50, again, we're talking damaging winds throughout this area. In some places, you combine that with the dry conditions and the heat, and you have this very high fire danger.
Right, and especially around the plains, as someone who lived there for a while, those winds really do kick up. When they say winds sweeping down the plains, they really mean that when they talk about that.
Absolutely. So you see here, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, bracing for this increased risk of fire danger today. Officials say over 400 homes were severely damaged or destroyed in the fires that started Friday, and the forecasters there in the National Weather Service say the extremely critical fire weather conditions continue. We just showed you those the red flag warnings for the fire danger. Winds, again, predicted over 50 miles per hour, and with these dry conditions, which means any fires that do develop could spread rapidly. It's incredible to see that. All right, we're going to take a look at the next storm system. And Taylor, thank you so much for sharing some of your expertise on the tornadoes. Let's turn our attention to this next developing system, okay? We've got winds coming up from the south, and we can take this full. You can see that we do have an area of low pressure that we're going to focus on. This one back right along the Kansas-Nebraska state line. As we zoom in here, I'll put the low on. You can see, again, this area right in here, those winds coming up from the south, and that's where we've got some of those high wind warnings. Back out to the west, though, this is the area that is going to continue to develop and eventually bring snow, and heavy snow at that, across parts of the north central U.S., up into Minnesota, parts of Iowa, and then eventually into the northeast as well. So in order to show you that, I want to take you right now with our GFS. This is the snow potential. It's one of the models, but you can see how the GFS handles this developing storm system and moves it along. So it's going to be pressing eastward. We've got high pressure and control in Hampton Roads. That means more sunshine for the next couple of days. But as we look ahead through Wednesday, late afternoon through 5 o'clock, you've got these areas shaded in purple from southern Minnesota through northwest Iowa and into northeast Nebraska. You've got potentially over 12 inches of snow in some of those areas. So a heavy snowmaker for this part of the country if our GFS model model is correct. As we look ahead to Thursday, there's chances for spotty areas of light snow across parts of the Ohio River Valley. We're going to be warmer here, and when the front comes through here, we're going to see a chance for showers late Thursday. But areas off to the north, even up into Maryland, some of the northern parts of Maryland up into Pennsylvania, more likely to maybe see some wet snowflakes, and then snow farther north, parts of eastern PA and into New York. So we're going to be watching for that. Again, this next storm system as it moves along, we'll see breezy conditions behind that front coming through Thursday night on Friday, and I'll have more for you on that. Now we're going to talk about this return home that has been months in the making. Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, the two astronauts stuck at the International Space Station for 9 months. They are headed back to Earth. The two departed from the ISS earlier this morning around 1:30. They separated, and they're on their way back alongside two other astronauts. And the capsule is set to splash down off the coast of Florida just before 6 o'clock. I think the official time is 5:57. I point that out because NASA is very precise with their times. So if the weather cooperates. So let me show you what things look like right now with the radar around Florida. Not bad at all. We'll zoom into the splashdown area is going to be somewhere in the Gulf here, not too far from Tallahassee. That's going to be the location that they will splash down, and then they'll be recovered and brought out. And again, I was looking at the seas in this area, expected to be fairly calm, maybe 2 feet or so later this afternoon, and the wind's not very strong. They've got a lot of sunshine down there in dry conditions, so hopefully everything goes very smoothly and according to plan, and we'll get those astronauts back after that long time stuck out there on the ISS. All right, let's talk about Hampton Roads. Yesterday's numbers, the high 69, that came very early in the morning. It was cooler through the afternoon. We did pick up 1/3 of an inch of rain, and for the year, we are 1/2 an inch above average. You might be wondering, what's next? Well, lots of sunshine. I mentioned it's a little breezy out there this morning. I'm going to focus on that in a moment, but we've got sunny conditions today and tomorrow, and then showers likely Thursday with that front coming through. Down at the ocean front, our Thompson Creek Window Company showing you some rough wave action out there. It's a little choppy. We do have the winds coming in from the north, and they're gusty. As we check out this sky view, you can see it's 45 with some high clouds out there. North winds sustained at 16, but we just had a gust in Norfolk to 31 miles per hour. We've also seen some high gusts around Virginia Beach, a gust of 36, 35 at Duck Pier. So it is breezy along the coast. As we check out the futurecast, you're going to see those winds staying pretty breezy into early afternoon and then relaxing as we go late afternoon and into the evening. I just showed you down at the ocean front, it is choppy, and we do have small craft advisories up for the bay and the ocean. High tide comes at 12:30 this afternoon at Sewell's Point. Those gusts to near 30 miles per hour out on the water. Things will improve later on. Now, the winds are also starting to kick up a little more tree pollen. Yesterday, levels were low, and they were low early this morning. But now that the winds are picking up, we've got the sunshine. We expect those levels to build, and it will likely be higher tomorrow. Mold is still low. All right, here's a look at our temperature trend over the next 10 days. Temperatures going up through Thursday, falling back Friday and breezy. A little warmer Saturday and Sunday, not too bad. Monday, another chance for showers, and then drier but cooler into the middle of next week. Our futurecast again here locally showing the sunshine, really nice. As we go through the afternoon, upper 50s around Norfolk. You go low to mid 60s as you come away from the water. And again, it will be breezy through the early afternoon, and then the winds calm down after that. As we look ahead to our Wednesday, another mostly sunny day. By Thursday, showers start to increase out to the west. You'll see some of those kind of creeping into the picture Thursday afternoon, and then late afternoon and evening, that's when they push into Hampton Roads. So highs today expected to range from the upper 50s at the beaches to low and mid 60s farther inland. Plenty of sunshine. Those winds relaxing later today. Low to mid 60s for the peninsula. Gloucester at 62. Cooler on the eastern shore. At the Outer Banks, low to mid 50s. We'll see low to mid 60s for most of northeast North Carolina. 46 the low tonight. Tomorrow back up around 67. So sunny, getting warmer. It gets even warmer on on Thursday rather, the first day of spring. So we'll look forward to that. That warm up into the 70s, but late afternoon and evening showers more likely there on Thursday. Breezy and cooler on Friday. Saturday, Sunday looking good. Some scattered showers on Monday. All right. If you want to follow our forecast, the best way to do that is with downloading the 13 News Now mobile app. You can scan that QR code. Lots of great information always available at your fingertips. And that's when you're away from the TV. Of course, you can always check us out right here at 13 News Now and on the 13 News Now Plus. Wherever you stream, this is a great way to follow us. We also put out so much on YouTube and all of our other social media platforms. Taylor, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
What did you think? I mean, obviously a lot to talk about. Pretty incredible tornado out there.
I mean, I think that's just what everybody's talking about now, the aftermath. And the only unfortunate part of this is that cleanup is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
For anyone across the nation. Even here, as you get into Perquimans County, they're down in Woodville. They're going to take a while to
It does take a while. The upside is that those areas hardest hit for today and tomorrow anyway, we do have high pressure kind of dominating. So at least the weather's somewhat cooperative, but those are huge cleanup efforts.
Yeah, and then we had the Red Cross who's helping out. Neighbors this morning were helping out. So it's honestly the other side of it, it's kind of a feel-good story. It's like we're coming together. Yeah, we're coming together to figure this out. So thank you for inviting me again today.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to do it from the Weather Desk. Again, I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. This is meteorologist Taylor Stephenson, and we're here. You can check us out Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock. We'll have more updates from the Weather Desk.